Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the quietest intro I've ever tried to hype you up with, because our newborn son has been frantically kicking and squirming all day and has finally fell asleep. Welcome to the Flying Otters! With me is the one and only Kirsten the First, James Ray Watson McCartney the Fifth, and I'm just Jimmy. And I'm not sure if you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, but if you can't, that applause is definitively digital and not real.
This is filmed in front of a live studio audience. As you can tell, we have relocated our studio to a bigger and a better location where we are filming live in front of thousands and thousands of people. So thank you all for coming out for the greatest fucking day of your life.
And the most watched podcast in the history of the internet, the Flying Otters. In case you were wondering what we're doing out here, as Kirsten mentioned it, we did have to relocate for the third time, and it's mostly due to the gentleman who's sleeping so gently right now. Our studio is now his room. He has claimed it. He is now the emperor of it. It is his, and we have relegated ourselves to being out here in a corner of the living room. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are.
And we tried really hard to make it light, so
yeah.
Don't get on us about
You
that.
may think this lighting sucks, but fun fact, we tried really hard to give you moderate lighting.
We know it does, because our main light all of a sudden doesn't work.
Yep.
So.
But it's fine, though, because we have so many viewers, so that'll make up for it. So it'll be okay.
So to all of our viewers, please do not unsubscribe. Tell all your friends to subscribe.
For every viewer we lose, that's almost 1% of our total viewership. So please do not unsubscribe because you see bad lighting in a new location. If you want to unsubscribe because you think the content is terrible, that's reasonable. But please don't do it because of the lighting. That's all we're asking.
And we haven't done an episode, not because we don't care about it anymore, not because we forgot about it and we did a couple episodes and we're done now. Nope. Just got a little busy and our studio did get taken over by this guy.
Yeah, the guy who you may think is a gentle little angel over there, but if you saw him even 5 minutes before we started filming, he was kicking and squirming as if he was free falling from the sky for about 3 hours straight.
And he owns more items now than either of us combined, so.
And he's not even 20 pounds. This freaking guy takes up more time, energy, resources, items, space, any metric you could possibly measure for living. You'd be surprised. Fun fact, it's not me as the largest person in this room. It's not Kirsten as the second largest. It's not even the dog who's asleep over there at 75 pounds. Nope. It is the 14-pound behemoth baby with 3.5-inch long head hair. That guy right there demands everything.
It's also worth noting why Mac is not bothering us right now for the first time ever during a podcast.
Yep. He went to the beach, which...
Well, firstly, we don't have shark bubbles. But second, he's pooped.
He went to the beach and basically, which he's obsessed with, I threw the ball pretty much as far as I could into the water every single time, and he didn't want to stop. Mac, ladies and gentlemen, basically, if you could take testosterone and adrenaline and turn it into a dog, it would be him. And those two chemicals combined, when he goes to the beach chasing the ball, nothing makes him stop. The only thing that will cause him to stop is his heart giving out from exhaustion. So he basically just kept going and going and going and going and going until we left. And he is finally tired, which means between this gentleman finally being asleep and that gentleman being asleep, we no longer have any excuses for putting out a mediocre to subpar podcast listened to by 48 people.
Also, do you know how exhausting it is to get this guy to sleep and that guy to sleep, and for us to still be awake trying to do this? It's really a lot.
Yeah, the two
but
of
here
us.
we are.
Yeah.
We could have used this moment to take a nap finally.
Yeah.
But we're here.
We're doing this for the viewers, ladies and gentlemen, for our loyal fans that have been with us since the beginning.
We haven't really gained more sense. So
yeah.
To all of you that have stuck with us through, what are we on?
14? 16. Episode 16.
16?
Yep.
That's pretty good.
For all of you who have sticked with us for 16 episodes, we want to let you know that that is very much appreciated, because typically podcasters, internet people, when they look at their metrics and they look at growth, they're looking for exponential growth, linear growth, incremental growth. We have just had a very, very slow decline, like the bunny hill on a mountain ski resort, just a very gentle, slow decline in viewership, not incline. We're just slowly going down. So for all of you watching, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We hope that it brightens your day in some capacity. And by doing that, that makes us feel good and makes us feel like we're doing something that matters, maybe even more so than the nap that we desperately need. So here we are, talking about Jamie a little bit sarcastically, but here's the truth of it, ladies and gentlemen. We are unbelievably thankful for him as a baby, because he is so happy. He is so healthy. We're very, very happy to be able to tell all of you how healthy he is. That guy is a rock star. As healthy as could be, eats all day, every day. His hair, folks, as you can kind of see, we'll put, Kirsten, can you plug in a picture to this so that, we'll put a couple pictures in so you can see how ridiculous his hair is. It is 3 inches long. We went to the beach today. He had a bucket hat on, and his hair came out an inch on the back of the bucket. That's how long his hair is. It is insane. It is beautiful. That guy, 100% of the nutrients that he intakes goes to making him longer and making his hair grow further. It doesn't go to gaining weight at all.
He's very tall and skinny.
Yep. He is only 3 months old, and the last time we measured him, he was 26.5 inches, which means in 3 months he's grown 4 inches. That is insane. That guy is a machine, and we're very thankful for him. He's a very happy baby. He's a very healthy baby. He laughs a lot. He's happy. He pretty much only cries when he's hungry, which is all the time. But when he's hungry, or if he has trapped gas that he needs to burp out, not even if he has a diaper full of diarrhea, he doesn't care. Those are the two things. The thing that we really have a hard time with is the fact that, unlike right now, it is very, very rare for him to sleep during the day. This is like a huge anomaly, which is why we haven't put out many episodes, because we can't get him to sleep during the day. Like when he wakes up in the morning, unless he's in the front carrier when we go for a walk, he's awake. And until,
which means we do not get any naps ever.
No. And, his typical sleep schedule until like 4 days ago was he would pass out hard at midnight and then wake up at like 6:30 or 7 and then go back to sleep for a little bit, and then be awake all day. It's nuts. Like a baby is supposed to sleep 17 hours a day. This guy sleeps 8. It's nuts. It's nuts.
But until recently, he's finally doing better.
Now, a couple of days, the last couple of nights, he's been sleeping through the night, going to bed earlier, taking a little bit of naps during the day, which is good. So that's very good. But I think the thing that we wanted to talk about that matters, we've been able to go to the beach a lot, and we're very thankful for that. He pretty much lets us take him anywhere as long as he's being held. Hates being left alone, just like his mother. But he's a really good baby.
And by left alone, we mean 2 feet away from us in his own little lounger area.
He does not want to.
He needs to be held.
Yeah.
Like right now. So I can't put him down in his bed. He has to be right here.
Yep.
So that he can take a nap and not go to sleep. But we can continue doing what we want all day. It can be loud in here. He can be making calls. And it doesn't matter at all.
No.
We can have Cops on full blast in the background.
He loves Cops. Fun fact about this gentleman, loves Cops. Loves the TV show Cops. Like you see like babies and like, oh, they want to see bright colors and they want to see little bubbles floating in the air and they want to see gentle harmonies. Not this guy. This gentleman right here wants to see blue and red siren lights, loud noises, and he wants to hear cops tackling a meth addict screaming, "Stop resisting!" That's what makes this guy go to sleep or enjoy it.
Or his ocean.
Yeah, he does like that. He has like a little TV box that simulates an ocean, which, if I'm going to be honest, there's not much character development, and there's not really
it's pretty boring.
A lot of action in it. It's basically just 4 figures that move back and forth.
Pretty repetitive.
Yeah, Jamie loves that, and he loves Cops.
And Brown Bear, Brown Bear.
And there's one book, ladies and gentlemen, that just hearing the words makes him smile. He's obsessed with the book.
We read the audio book out loud, and he starts smiling or stops crying, whatever it is.
Yeah. And when he actually gets to see what we call the fireworks page that has all of the pictures condensed into like one like crackhead version of the book, he just goes nuts. Loves it. He just stares at it and smiles.
Maybe I can put a picture of that.
Yeah, we got to do that. And you got to put a picture of him smiling while looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll write that down. Jamie Hare, Jamie Brown Bear,
and fireworks.
Jamie Fireworks. All right, so the thing that we wanted to, that's just like an update on what he's been doing. But the thing we wanted to talk about, really that matters when it pertains to him, and this is something that a lot of parents deal with. We are alone in Tampa Bay. We don't really have family here, and so it's been like a really tough debate about like, what do we do? I've been a traveling comedian for the last 4 years. That's what I've done. I travel to make money. I travel as a living, and I've been progressing doing that. But like, I go on the road in order to do that. And so, recently I had a couple shows up in Connecticut and Rhode Island, and I was gone for a couple days, and Kirsten was here alone, and it was like the hardest it had ever been with Jamie, and I wasn't here. It was really difficult for her. And so, that brings into question a lot of things like, how do we generate money? As a traveling comedian, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we manage this? Do one of us work? Do both of us work a regular job? What do we do? Like, do we, completely change course? Do we move back, to be next to family? Like, what do we do? It's a really, really hard debate. And the thing that's weird about it is it's not like there's one clear answer that is obviously better than everything else. And like, this is the right pathway. This is what you should do. It's like, there's none. If we stay here in Tampa where we really enjoy being, it's just us. So we can't take date nights. We can't go out and just have time, to do fun activities. And it's just us. It's all on us, 100% on us. We can't get a break. Do we go back to be next to family? Do we take regular jobs in order to make money and then give up on the pathway that has been unfolding and worked on and developed? Like, what do? There's no clear answer. It's been a really hard thing. That's something we've been really struggling with the last couple months. And a lot of new parents, I'm sure they deal with it. And you've seen it both ways. Some people move back to the hometown to like be with family, and other people choose to stay, and it's just them and it's on them, and they figure it out and they work it out. And there's no clear answer. Being a human is very difficult. And I think being a new parent, especially because it's your first time doing it, you're learning everything to begin with, and you're on your own. That's a lot.
And you don't know what's to come. It's like, yeah, we're managing now, we're handling it now, but what's the next thing? The next thing is him crawling around. So having a space for him to crawl around, and then it's him actually walking around and running around and needing a lot more space and a lot more of our time and attention. Right now we're supposed to be able to put him down for naps during the day, but that's obviously not happening, like we said. But when he starts running around, and when he's only going to take like a nap or two maybe during the day if we're lucky, that's going to be really difficult in a small space and with no one around. So he's going to need actual activities to do. We're not going to be able to just like sit on the couch and put on Cops or read Brown Bear over and over again. But he's going to need a lot more different types of activities. He's going to want to be involved in everything. Like, want to help cooking, and going to want to help doing the things that we do now to just handle it, and he's going to make it a little bit more difficult anyways. But we don't even know what we're supposed to be prepared for. We're just kind of winging it right now and hoping for the best, and I think that's what a lot of people do.
I mean, a lot of parenting is that, like there isn't a clear roadmap in exactly what to do, but it's just like there's obviously bigger issues in the world, but it's like a weird thing to feel like your whole world is thrown up in the air, and not knowing what to do or how to do it and what the best course of action is like a really difficult thing to do. And the other thing, in addition to everything else that we're facing, is like the space that we're in is relatively small. When we signed the lease here, we didn't even know that James V was on the way. And so it's very different.
He already was.
Yep. Fun fact.
Yeah.
Every day that we've been in this place where we've been filming for the last year, Kirsten has either been pregnant or had James V alive. Those are the only two.
I've been sustaining his body for over a year now.
Yep.
100% dependent on me.
But you can see the proof of how good she's doing, because that's one of the biggest babies on the East Coast with the best hair you've ever seen on any child ever. It goes over his ears. He almost looks like a character from Lord of the Rings or something. He's so ridiculous with his hair. He's a grown man.
I wonder if he's going to wake up during this episode at all.
Probably, and be pissed.
Probably as soon as you get fired up starting to talk about the real stuff.
Speaking of which, that's the perfect segue, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump right into it. Good thing that I had this all prepared.
And these parts are going to be James heavy on the content here because there will be a decent amount of ranting, I'm sure.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm too pooped. I don't know. But anyway, all right, here we go. Trump threatens to destroy Iranian infrastructure, saying the government knows what has to be done. As many of you all know, that the United States has began airstrikes on Iran in coordination with Israel. The reason why this is such a big deal is not only does Iran have a very powerful military, but they also have a lot of coastline along the Strait of Hormuz, which is a very narrow passage where the majority of the world's oil comes in and out of. It's a vital thing. And so Iran, even though they're infinitely weaker than us militarily, has the ability to shut down that strait and block off oil flow, which is why you have all seen the gas prices go up at the pump like almost immediately. That's a direct result of the war in Iran. Now, the thing that's happened is the U.S. has pretty much eliminated the majority of the major threats that Iran's military can pose to us. So the next thing that Trump is now threatening to do is go beyond just military strikes on like their missile silos and their drone factories and shit like that, and the leadership of the Iranian government. He's now saying that he's considering the idea of attacking actual Iranian infrastructure where like civilians need things, which would be in the realm of like electric power plants and bridges that people use, shit like that. Like not targeting civilians, but the things that civilians need just to survive, which is freaking wild. There is speculation that the U.S. could send in ground troops. That's a whole nother level. I don't think that's going to happen, but we don't know. I've kind of gone a lot of different directions on this. Firstly, and most importantly, in my opinion, I don't really like the idea of the U.S. getting involved in unprovoked wars. However, there is credence to the idea that Iran has been playing with a lot of fire for decades, you know, using different channels to mess with us, using different channels to support terrorist groups, using different channels to try to subvert the United States. That's definitely happened. I don't really care so much that they chant death to America. A lot of people do. But what really matters is as they were like using terrorist groups and other different pathways in order to try to hinder us and hurt us, they also have been developing, you know, nuclear capabilities. Now, here's a question, and this is a question that's just, you know, for people to think about. I don't like the idea of Iran having nuclear weapons, but like it is a weird thought. Who the hell do we think we are to say, as a nation with like 3,000 nuclear weapons, to try to dictate to the world who's allowed to have them? And fun fact, North Korea is one of the places that we really didn't want to have them, and now that they do, we don't threaten to invade them, which kind of validates why they wanted to build them. I mean, we wouldn't have really invaded North Korea. There was no reason to us to do it anyway in any capacity. But once you have nuclear weapons, it kind of allows you a seat at the table to be like, don't fuck with me. You know, I could blow up a whole city in one shot if I wanted to. You may win, but I'll take millions of people with me. Having a nuke gives an unbelievable amount of leverage. In addition to that, one of the reports that we've been seeing recently, and I think this is really important for people to consider, and again, this isn't me saying I'm pro-war in Iran. This is just objectively what's happening. There was a long article that Kirsten and I checked out about how this is actually part of a grander alignment of what's happening in the world stage, where a couple months ago, or a month or two ago, the United States removed Maduro, the president of Venezuela, which was pretty nuts the way they did that. Holy shit. We went into like their main city, the most guarded building for their leader, and took out everybody with zero deaths on the U.S. side, and then got out of there with their president. That's nuts.
Alive.
Yeah, that is freaking nuts what we managed to do. But my point is, we took him out, and here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. It's not just Venezuela wasn't great to their own people. There's more than that. Apparently, the United States has built hundreds of multiple billions of dollars of infrastructure to extract oil. Venezuela is very oil rich. Our companies went in there and built all these oil platforms, and then Maduro and his government seized those assets. So that's American property that they stole after negotiations. So anyway, that's back up and running, which is really good for the United States. Not so good for China, our, what would you say, not nemesis, rival, our potential next main threat to the global hegemony that the United States built. In alignment with that, Iran has been supplying China with a lot of oil as well. And so what the article that we took a look at was that if you take away China's two main resources for obtaining energy, Iran and Venezuela on a market, it kind of puts them into a back burner and kind of takes the pressure off the United States with the threat that China's a rising power. And so, again, this isn't me saying it's a good thing that the U.S. invaded Iran, or not invaded, is attacking Iran. But objectively, it's more to it than what was initially reported. Like, a lot of people were saying, oh, Trump's just going along with what Israel wants him to do, or Trump's just claiming that this is because they're a threat to the world. Maybe. Do you remember me saying when this first happened, I'll bet there's more to this than we know?
Yeah.
Again, this isn't me saying that it should happen, but just objectively, if you look at the chessboard and you look what's happening, you take out Iran and Venezuela that were both friendly to China and not so friendly to us. And then you talk about the energy reserves that we have on hand to begin with. There's a whole bunch of things that go into global politics that go beyond just what leaders initially say. Case in point, like, it's very rare for a country to just invade someone and say, we just want the land, or we just want that. Typically, they say that there is a reason to justify it, and then beneath that, there's something far more important. And I think what's going on in Iran is a lot deeper than people realize. Maybe Trump was getting reports about, like, if we don't do this eventually, here's how this plays out, and how China is going to use Iran, and keep, continuing to grow their economy and their energy resources. And eventually they're going to be able to take us over economically and culturally and militarily. But if we can strangle it ahead of time with our military before they make certain deals and put things into place, we can prevent that.
I think that's what it all basically came down to, right? Was just the energy reserves and who controls the energy.
Isn't that a wild thought?
Yeah.
And it's also a weird thought that, like, we attacked both Venezuela and Iran, but really what was going on was it wasn't even about them. It's actually about China, which is just such a weird thought. And it's a scary place that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. If you think about the positioning that China makes and the positioning that Trump is making, one thing I will say that I think is important is part of the reason Trump was put into office by so many people is Trump, in his first term, was anti-war in every capacity. He did everything he could to not get the U.S. involved in war. And it is a weird thing how he hasn't really addressed the fact that just went right out the window with this. As soon as this happened, I said there has to be something more to this than what we're being told. And it seems like it's starting to unravel. That being said, how is this going to affect midterms with all the people who weren't necessarily Republican, but they were sick of Democrats and sick of the woke shit and sick of forever wars? And even if they didn't like Trump, they're like, well, at least the guy doesn't invade places. And now this happens. What are the downstream effects of this? It could be everything, So it's like a really weird thing that attacking Iran with airstrikes could have an unbelievably massive impact on the world. How does it unfold? What would anybody do? I don't know. But I think it's a really weird thing. I was thinking about this. Like, I don't know if did you see the information that came out that we accidentally attacked like a girls' school?
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like
it was like by a base or something.
Apparently, and I don't know the exact details. I think what happened was we had bad intel and we're told it used to be like a stockpile of munitions, and we didn't know that it's currently a girls' school. Something like that. Like, the U.S. didn't say, oh, there's a girls' school, boom. It didn't happen like that. It doesn't justify that it happened, but my point is we didn't intend to kill a whole bunch of schoolgirls. We had bad intel, or like it was like outdated intel, something like that. But a bunch of schoolgirls died. Trump is going to have to spend the rest of his life knowing, not just like the Iranian regime that he took out, and all of the military targets that he took out. And there's a lot of like soldiers that are just doing their job, that are now dead. He also has to think about all of the U.S. service members. God bless our troops, by the way. Can we agree on that? No matter what, obviously me and you do, but I hope our viewers do too. Even if you hate this war in Iran, please support our troops and all of the things that they're doing over there. God bless them. And some of them have passed away. So Trump is going to have to, when he's lying on his deathbed, reflect and say, like, I didn't just take out bad leaders. My decisions led to the deaths of innocent schoolgirls and multiple service members. That's a really hard burden to bear, even if you think it was the right thing to do. And like, imagine for any of you out there, this is just something to think about. I don't have an answer. Imagine if you were a world leader and you were dealt a position of like, do you allow your rival power to gain supremacy in the world as your country is declining? You have a responsibility to 350 million people. Or do you attack a very bad nation's government knowing that some of your amazing service members will die and you might end up
He's gagging
killing
himself.
you might end up killing civilians? And as I was trying to make a really important point, my son decided the perfect thing for him to do is to take his entire fist and just put it in his mouth. Hi, Jamie. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, what I was getting to is, like, as a world leader, it's not as simple as, even if you think it's the right thing to do or the best course of action, you have to look back on your choices in the world and really replay them and understand, like, as Donald Trump, my choice to attack Iran directly led to the deaths of 200 schoolgirls, 10 or 15 U.S. service members as of now, plus all the bad guys that he went out and got, plus all of just the regular Joe Blow Iranian soldiers that are just working their job, manning a missile post or whatever. Like, that's a really hard thing to deal with. And I don't know many people who could make that decision lightly. And if you could make that decision lightly, you got to check yourself mentally, because that's a really scary, awful thing to do. And I hope I never have to make a decision like that. What is most beneficial for, 350 million people at the expense of, the service members who die and the potential civilians in another country you might kill? Or do you let your country decline and have 350 million people suffer and have China, become the dominant power in the world? And fun fact, if you guys out there who are anti-American and you're anti-Trump, I disagree with you. Okay, fine. If you want to be anti-American, go ahead. But if you think that the ball stops there, you're an ignorant fool. You're an idiot. If you think that America is just this big, awful, bad, nasty superpower, and then the world would be better without America as the dominant power, you're an idiot. You are a jackass. You are a freaking moron. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's just play this one out. China right now has social credit score systems where they have monitoring all over the place. And if you jaywalk, they just immediately start reducing your social credit score. It prevents you from getting certain jobs. It can even prevent you from accessing your bank account in China right now to their own people. Those are their people. Those are their ethnic people.
Mirror, that show Black Mirror?
I haven't seen it, but it's happening right now in China.
There was an episode like that where, like, you could rate people as you're walking past them.
Oh, it's not rating, it's the government. So the government has unbelievably advanced, I don't want to say spying technology, but surveillance technology, where they have cameras all over the place and they can do facial recognition and instantly know it's you. And they can literally see if someone is jaywalking, they will see that person, recognize it, attach it to their account, and reduce their social credit score. And if they do stuff like that too much, they can be locked out of their bank account. And
do you think that the U.S. has that stuff also, but maybe just isn't using it to the same capacity, or like isn't using it against us like that yet?
I'm sure that our government has that technology, but we wouldn't do that. And our people wouldn't allow that. But China's powerless to their government. So my point is, ladies and gentlemen, China does that to their own people. If China becomes the dominant superpower in this world, what do you think they'll do to you and me? How do you think they'll exploit other countries? Do you think that they'll create partnerships and economic advancement throughout the world and believe that spreading peace through economic trade is the way to go? Or do you think China will just enforce its will the way that they do on fishing markets in seas that are not their own? The way they just take fish out of other countries' fishing markets and they just don't care. There's talks, and I'm not an expert on this, about harvesting organs from ethnic minorities in their own country. This is the type of shit that China does. So if you want to go out and point the fingers and say America is a force of evil in this world, America's the bad guys, okay, you point to me in a direction about a more altruistic superpower that's available out there, because here are your options: China and Russia. Do you want Russia? You guys are so upset about the war in Ukraine. Do you want them becoming the dominant power in the world? Don't think so. Do you want China? Don't think so.
What about India?
India is a rising power. They're not nearly as much of a threat as China is right now, but India is a rising power. They also have nuclear weapons. There's a lot of people who think about, like, oh, America is so bad. Guess what? America, if they wanted to, could have enslaved the world. After World War II, we were the only country with nuclear capabilities. If we wanted to, we could have pointed a gun at the world and said, submit to our will or die. And then we could have made whatever rules we wanted to subjugate the rest of the world and make this entire world just ours. We could have conquered the planet. You know what we did? Instead, we built up the countries that attacked us. We rebuilt Germany and we rebuilt Japan, and we made them allies of ours. If you think that America is the bad guy and you're not willing to look at what happens if America declines and China rises, you're a fool. Fun fact, you are a fool. Obviously, America has made mistakes, sure. But do you want to live in a world that's dominated by China? And if you do, you're an idiot, and good luck. And if so, you should move to China right now and go do that. That's the end of my rant on that. That's the end of my
Boom.
yeah, boom. That's the end of that rant. So anyway, the Iran war is pretty wild. There's a lot more going on, and I think it's going to unravel itself as time goes on. We may not know the full extent of it for a couple years or maybe even longer, but there's more to it than what we're seeing. I think that much is obvious. War is bad. War is a really bad thing. You can make the argument Trump shouldn't have done this. You can also make the argument Trump betrayed the people that voted him in power because he said he wouldn't start new wars. You know, there's a lot of things you can argue, but you can also make the argument as if China was positioning itself in a way with Iran and Venezuela that was going to make them the dominant superpower and Trump didn't act proactively, maybe the world becomes a much worse place. And think about this for yourself when you're casting judgment, not just on Trump, but any world leader. I'm not saying that attacking another country is okay. Not at all. However, it's very rare, I think, and I'm sure it does happen for a world leader just to be power hungry and be like, I'm just going to go take this. Sure. I think nowadays a lot of these world leaders, even if they're assholes or, pieces of crap, they're at least looking at it through the lens of what is best for my people and what is the greater good for my people. And sometimes they're in positions where they feel like they have to do something like that. And again, I'm not defending attacking a country, but I think there's a lot to stuff that people don't realize when wars happen. And I would never want to be in that position. And I think it's important for all of you out there to think about that for yourselves. What would you do if you're in that position? And how scary it would be and how awful it would be to have blood on your hands and decide, like, God damn, no matter what I do, somebody's going to die. Having to choose that type of thing, it's scary. It's awful, right?
And also just because even if you hate Trump doesn't mean that you need to be anti-American.
Yep. I'm very glad you said that. Those two things can be absolutely different. You can hate Trump all you want, and I'm fine with that. But if you hate America, I think you're a fool. You can be upset at the decisions that that America has made, for sure. But if you hate America in totality, you're a fool. And you should probably leave because you have no idea how lucky you are. This is the greatest, freest, most prosperous country in the history of human existence ever. Ever. And we're the first global superpower that could conquer the world and chose not to. Fun fact, on both accord. Now, if you'll excuse James V, he will be chewing his own hand. Have we not been recording?
No, we have been.
Okay.
It's just been zooming or focusing in and out, and it's really bothering me.
I'm glad that we had the close-up of Jamie eating his hand. All right. Next story, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a pretty wild one.
Good enough is good enough, right?
There is a... I think the 100 people that do subscribe to us aren't going to judge us if it's a little bit blurry. I think if you're willing to power through all of our bullshit...
It's better to be blurry than, like, focusing in and out.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It was bothering me the whole time. So sorry. But we've fixed it, hopefully. Now it's just a little bit blurry.
All right. Next story. New York City has spent $368 million on unsheltered homeless people at a price point of $81,705 per person, which you may be surprised to hear this, ladies and gentlemen. That's more than I've ever made in a year in my life. This is how much is being spent.
What do they need that money for?
Hotels, food, medical care, police services, things like that.
It's more than you've ever spent or made in a year.
That's more than I've ever made in a year in my life, ever. By a long shot.
And they get medical services. Which
I also do not get. Anyway, the reason why this is a very significant story, ladies and gentlemen, is not just the cost per person. $81,000 is insane. Like I said, that's literally more than I've ever made in a year in my entire life, ever. Beyond that. Right now, New York City, with their mayor, who that's a whole nother thing that I could rant for hours about, but with that mayor, just made an announcement that New York City is in a budget crisis so badly that he's appealing to New York State to cover the cost of his budget, which is out of balance, after promising the moon to all of the people who put him in office. Now, here's the thing. If you are a liberal voter, you're a progressive voter. If you are a 28-year-old barista who works in New York City and you do reviews on different, skirts at Macy's, and somehow you make enough money to live in New York City and you want to create your liberal metropolis that, is progressive and inclusive. So you vote for this freaking guy who promised you the moon of free everything. And immediately after getting into office, he says, New York City is in one of the worst budget crises we could possibly conceive of, and we're going to need help from New York State. Meaning, the city basically said, we don't have enough money, and asked New York State, can you guys foot the bill and send us extra money that was already allocated for other parts of the state, which is nuts. As that's going on, it just gets unraveled that they've spent $368 million on homeless people who, per person, is $81,000. Their cost, or their living standard of the amount of money allocated to them is more than I've ever made in my life. Ever.
Is that including like for whole families and stuff like that?
No,
like,
it says per person. So each individual, on average.
So if there's like a family of 4 that's homeless,
it's way more than that. Yeah.
They're getting a shit ton of money.
It's not like it's cash going into their pockets. It's basic. So it's things like sheltering them and providing them food and medical care and counseling and rehab and the cops.
Are all of those things easily and readily available?
I mean, in bigger cities, yes. I lived in Seattle and I worked with homeless people, and that's the type of shit. Like, they're quick to be able to respond and get them in pipelines for certain things. Cities that have a lot of homelessness have a lot of resources that are there.
Then why is there still so many people on the streets?
Because, okay, this is a really good conversation. A lot of people who want to make the claim that you need to send money for homeless causes. You need to help homeless people. And if you don't want to send them, you're an asshole. Okay, here's the deal. When I say this is not me coming from a position of I just have thoughts on this. I lived it directly. I worked with homeless people directly for 2 years. And as someone who did that for 2 years in Seattle, one of the most homeless friendly, meaning a place that has the most services available for homeless people in the entire country. Here's what it is. I worked with them directly for 2 years. Almost every single homeless person in a major city, not in a small town, in a major city, almost all of them, 19 out of 20 times, it is someone with severe mental illness combined with, not just isolated with, combined with severe drug and or alcohol addiction. So, most of those homeless people are severely mentally ill and addicted to things like crack and heroin, meth, or both, or all, and alcohol. And the reason that they're homeless is not because they're incapable of getting a home. It's not because there isn't enough resources for them to. It's because they're choosing to live that lifestyle because they're not making sane mental decisions. There is 1 out of 20 times someone like me. I went to Seattle. I was a homeless person. I met other people that had the same thing. They fell on hard luck. They didn't have resources. They needed to get back on their feet. Bing, bang, boom. They get out of there. The people that you see walking around the streets that are covered in filth, talking to themselves and shooting up heroin.
Clarify, though, that that's different because you weren't homeless for an extended amount of time. It was a very short stint versus these people who are out there for years at a time.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Those people, there is those people like me that move to a city, they run out of money, they live in their car for a while, they shower at Planet Fitness, and then they get a job, and then they slowly work their way back up. That happens.
Van lifer.
Kinda. That happens. That does happen. But the vast majority of the homeless people that you see have been on the streets a long time, not because there isn't resources. It's because they're choosing, and I say that in parentheses for a reason, they're choosing to stay on the streets. They're not making sound mental decisions, and they're addicted, severely addicted to drugs and extremely mentally ill. There is, once in a while, a homeless person who fell on bad luck, had things not go their way, and you can tell because you can talk to them, and they're aware, they're lucid, they're able to communicate. They just fell on hard times. They don't have family support, whatever. They moved, their car broke down. That happens. Most of the time, the overwhelming amount of the time, it's someone who's severely mentally ill and has a severe drug and or alcohol addiction.
And so I wonder how much it costs per person if you're in jail for a year versus living on the streets, because also those homeless people are allowed to like break laws that normal people are not. Like, they can do drugs on the street and they can be drunk in public and none of that shit matters.
And what she's saying is not hyperbole.
You can pee on the streets and you're not going to go to jail. Like,
it's not that they can get, it's not that the laws don't apply to them. It's that the police don't really enforce it.
but why? And why is that fair?
It's not. It's 100% not. And in what she's saying,
is it costing more money to keep them on the street if it's basically costing $81,000 a person?
it's a detriment to literally everyone, including the homeless person. Here's the reason why. And again, this is what I did for 2 years. I basically rode around on a bicycle.
They're continuing that same cycle of their life every day.
Yes.
And they're allowed to do it, so why not?
And it's not just a cycle,
and being
it's a
able
downward.
to do drugs on the street is better for them than having to sit in a jail cell.
They're not even viewing it through that lens. They're just so addicted to drugs and they're so out of it mentally. They're just chasing. They're not even really cognizant of it a lot of the time. They're not even really aware. Like, they know they're out on the streets, but they're really just hyper fixated on getting more drugs. And because they're so mentally ill, they're not processing it like we do. They're just not. We look at, like, the idea of sleeping on the streets in the rain is like, holy shit, that would be awful. I did it a couple times. It is. They don't view it that way. Their brain isn't working in the same capacity that most people's operate at. It's just not. And so here's what ends up happening. You know how you said it's the same cycle every day? The only thing I would say that's different than that, it's a downward spiral. It gets slightly worse every single day. And it's a detriment to everybody. Nobody wins. That homeless person is living a horrific life. It's awful. I've seen it. I lived it. It's really, really bad. Those homeless people are basically struggling really, really bad, and they're not well mentally. They're in a really dark place. They feel threatened all the time. They're scared. It's not good for them. It's also really, really bad for for businesses, because when you are, like, especially in Seattle, what tourist is going to want to spend what little vacation time and what little spending money that they have to go to a place like Seattle where there's homeless people all over the place? They're throwing shit. They're screaming bloody murder, and they're shooting up heroin needles in the park where your kids are supposed to walk, right next to the fish market where the guys are throwing fish. Are you going to want to go back there ever again? No. So it's a detriment. And also just the businesses functioning. I used to see it all the time where homeless people would go into a place and just ransack it and just destroy the place, or they just go in and be crazy and then walk out. It's a detriment to businesses. It's a detriment to the community, because those homeless people are not mentally stable. They're not safe. And it's also not good for the homeless person. It's not, because they're living in filth, and it's not sanitary. It's not healthy. They have an unbelievably high rate of disease and death, exposure, meaning you just freeze to death in the middle of the night. Like, that shit happens all the time to homeless people. It's not good for anyone. And
Does
so
that really happen? I mean, I guess so. And then there's just dead guys laying on the.
Yes.
Wow.
I used to get calls all the time, not about dead people. I used to get calls all the time about people who were who took way too much heroin or were blackout drunk and passed out on the side of the road. And in Seattle, the police or the EMS, who were so overworked and so overtired, they would see these people, shake them awake, say, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" And they would have freedom of consent when they were awake. If they said no, the police and medics were required to let them just leave them there. So you just see this fucking person who looks dead laying on the side of the road, laying there. It could be raining out, and they're just passed out laying there, and the cops will just walk by because they already had an initial no, so they'll sit there for hours.
But
that's the type of shit.
But the cops on the show Cops find someone with a little tiny bag of something and bring them to jail immediately.
It depends on where you're at, but that's the type of thing that happens. The types of things that I used to see in a major city where the homeless people are doing shit, if a regular person did it in a mid to small size city or a safe city that didn't have a homeless chronic issue, they'd go straight to jail. I saw crazy shit. It's just like a wild thing. And so here's the point. A lot of people who are on the progressive side of the aisle on the issue of homelessness say, well, what we need to do is increase taxes, tax the rich to pay for service programs to help the homeless people. And if you don't do that, you're a bigot, and we need to allow the homeless people the choice and live and blah, blah, blah. We need to help them by giving them service programs. I'm not going to get into the whole fraud debate because that's a different topic that we're going to talk about in a minute, about the fraud that goes on with nonprofits and people that exploit it. Forget that. The cost that goes into those things is massive, and it's so obvious. You can just look at the numbers. Like, as spending on homelessness increases, the number of homeless people in those cities increase. It doesn't go down. The amount of spending that has gone into Seattle has been increasing and increasing more and more and more, but the number of homeless people that they have keeps going up.
Probably because it's a good place to be homeless.
How can you not see the connection? I mean, think about it. If you're a homeless person and you know there are certain resources,
You call in all your boys.
you could. It's not really quite like that. It's mostly just like, in the region, a lot of the smaller towns, if they get a homeless person, they'll just pay for the bus ticket. Uh-oh.
Here I go.
In certain places, ladies and gentlemen, police departments and cities will pay the bus fare for a homeless person to be shipped into a place like Seattle. They get there, right? And now they have access to drugs all over the place, and there are services if they choose to go for them. Things like free food, homeless shelters. There's also places where you can get your laundry washed if you want, take a shower, that type of thing. So the resources in these big cities is higher. The amount of drugs that are available to them is higher. The amount of leniency that happens in a big city is higher. So it's more advantageous for them to go to those places. Now, here's the point that matters. If you get into a position where you're year after year, you can see the numbers. We spent this amount of money and we had this much of an increase in homelessness. Then the next year we spent more money and had more homeless. More money, more homeless. More money, more homeless. And you see that pattern every single year. What in the world makes you think that if you spend more money again, that you are now suddenly going to fix the problem and homelessness will go down and then disappear? It does not work that way, because they're not addressing the root causes of homelessness. And I know this shit because I lived it for 2 years and worked with them. The people that want those types of programs are fucking oblivious. You're talking about someone who makes $200,000 a year to work at Amazon, and they live in neighborhoods that don't have homelessness in it. And then they just commute into work, do their job, and then step over the homeless person to get on the bus or get in their car to go back home. And they're like, oh, yeah, we should support homeless people. That's fine. And they're clueless. They don't know. Here's the actual root of homelessness. It is not that the majority of them fell on hard times. It is not. It is absolutely the vast majority of them are severely mentally ill and have drug and or alcohol addiction. So with those people, right? Forget the fact they're homeless. If you went up to anyone in the street and you said, hey, here's the deal. There's a group of people over there that are severely mentally ill and they're addicted to meth. What should we do? Do you really think that any sane person would say, maybe we should get them like, little tiny houses and we'll put them in a warehouse and we'll bring them food? That'll help them. No, anyone you ask that question to would say they need to be taken away to be detoxed and to be able to have their mental illnesses analyzed and figure out how to help them, get them squared away in a controlled environment and see if they can be mainstreamed and helped. That's what we need to be doing with homeless people. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. Homeless people at the root of it are, the vast majority are mentally ill and have drug and or alcohol addiction. What do they need? They need to be taken by police or other groups, be detoxed from the drugs that they're addicted to, have their mental illnesses addressed, figure out what they are and what they need, and then do an analysis if you can mainstream them back out. And if you can't, well, there was a reason back in the day that they used to have asylums. I know that the reason that they were closed is because they were mistreated. People were abused. It was a lot of really bad shit that happened in them. I'm not saying we should repeat the problems of the past, but the reason that there wasn't massive amounts of homelessness back in the day is because those types of things weren't tolerated.
I'm back.
Yeah, you are. This is still kind of cold. Uh-oh. I'll try to warm it as best I can. Hopefully he's able to just hang out. Would you like to say any closing comments about the homelessness spending and the homelessness epidemic in the United States?
No, thank you.
Okay. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into the third and final major topic that we're going to talk about today, and that is the fraud in California. A lot of you by now have heard the stories going on about Nick Shirley and the videos that he posted on Twitter that went mega viral about the rampant fraud that was happening in Minnesota. Turns out that was just the beginning. He did more investigations in California and found way more rampant fraud. I've seen a lot of different articles that have come out that have said the amount of fraud that's been going on in California is in the multiple billions of dollars, which is absolutely insane. I wish that I had it up in front of me. I think it was this morning I saw something that speculated that it was like 25% of California's spending in terms of government subsidy programs and government assistance programs was pure fraud, which is just insane. It's just nuts. The statistics and the numbers on them are like astronomical. Like rates of increase of hospice cares and autism support care is like exponentially higher than it was a couple years ago, which is impossible. So obviously there's shit going on that doesn't make sense. Now, I'll just read this headline. This is from the Justice Department. 8 arrested in healthcare fraud takedown, including owners of hospices that billed taxpayers millions of dollars to serve the dying. Ladies and gentlemen, when we were talking before about how James is such an easy, happy baby, it's true. And I did make 2 disclaimers. The 2 times he is not is if he has gas and needs to burp and it's trapped, or in this case, when he's really hungry and pissed about it. And when he's hungry and pissed, nothing in the world exists that matters more than him getting food.
He is gets so pissed that he doesn't even want to eat it.
That happens a lot.
You have to fight him to eat it.
Yeah, so. He gets so upset he doesn't want to take the bottle.
So for this last topic, and I'll let you take this one on your own.
I will do it really quick, because I can't even speak. I can't even speak words. Ladies and gentlemen, basically here's the deal. People are committing fraud all over the place. It's a really frustrating thing when you see how many people are barely surviving right now, how many people are fighting so hard to get by, how many people are working jobs they don't want to work, how many people are doing things that are draining their soul, but they're doing it because they need to make money to survive and they need to support other people in their family and themselves. And here's the reason it matters. A lot of the people on the progressive left have been getting mad at people like Nick Shirley who have been exposing this fraud because they say he's a racist because it happened to be the majority of the people committing the fraud in Minnesota were Somalian. He didn't go there saying, I want to go expose Somalis. He went there saying, I want to expose fraud. And it just, fun fact, happened to most of those people that he found were Somali. It's not racist because they're black. It's actually racist to not investigate it if they are black. A lot of these progressives who thinks that they're inclusive and accepting are actually committing racist acts that they claim that they're against in a reverse order. Because if you think that someone over there is immune to being investigated because they're a Somalian immigrant, you're a racist and you're an idiot. It's as simple as that, because you're basically saying those people from Somalia, because they're black and they're Muslim and they're immigrant, they get a free pass, they can do whatever they want. Let them commit fraud. And you know who they're stealing from? They're not just stealing from Republicans, they're stealing from you. They're stealing from Democrats. They're stealing from people who are taxpayers. So here's the thing that I don't understand about the outrage about people investigating the fraud and doing the classic progressive claim of, oh, you're a racist. Oh, it's racist. Nope, maybe it's not. Maybe fraud is fraud and fraud is bad. And maybe you should get pissed because your tax dollars are being used so that other people can illegitimately drive around in a goddamn Bentley and have a house that you couldn't afford because they're committing fraud on your tax dollar.
Also, why is fraud political? Why is it a political topic?
The reason why it was politicized is because Nick Shirley's video almost only showed Somalians. So the left was like, oh, you're just a racist. You're only doing this because they're immigrants and they're black and they're Muslim. That's why you want to find them as fraudsters. That was the argument they made.
Well, that's also the same people who don't believe that 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah. So this is the thing that sucks. I don't understand this. I can understand, like, I get it. Like, if you hate Trump, and
whatever. Even if it was that they were upset that all the fraud is being pointed out that it's all Somalis, why don't they go ahead and find some that's white people doing fraud?
Fraud is bad.
Like, why don't they go find other people doing it and then make their own video about it? And I'm sure that would go just as viral and people would be just as mad about it.
Yeah, fraud is bad no matter who does it, and ladies and gentlemen.
Wasn't the stuff in California Russians or something like
that? I believe that it was like tied to Russia. It was either Russian or Eastern Europeans.
That wasn't the Somalis anymore in California.
Right. So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't, like, the outrage against fraud is nuts. If you found out someone was stealing from you, like, you'd be pissed. And what those videos were meant to do and what's happening with the government now, finding fraud, it doesn't matter who it is. You should be outraged because guess what? I know even the people who disagree with me adamantly, the progressives that you hear me so often talk about who I'm frustrated with, those people, most of them are still working. Is he okay?
Yeah. Frantically hungry.
Most of those people that are progressive are still working and still trying to survive and support their family. And I think that it's not fair to those people that have to deal with fraud. I think it's not fair to those people who have had to have their tax dollars stolen so that fraudsters can live at a higher standard of living and live better to commit, not only a crime of theft, but to just not do anything with it. It's disgusting. It shouldn't matter if the person that is being ousted is left or right, or if the person finding the fraud is left or right. Someone stealing your tax dollars so that they can live a better life than you and not contribute in any way, you should be outraged. And it's honestly astonishing to me that there's more anger pointed at people like Nick Shirley than there is at the people that are stealing ungodly amounts of money from you. That tax dollar fraud is not just Republicans having their money taken. It's Democrats. It is progressive liberals. It's even the freaking woke commies are having their money taken so that these other people can drive around in a Mercedes-Benz and not do shit and steal your money. That's gross.
And are they appreciative of the American system for allowing them to live like that?
Nope. They're just people that are just stealing from us. That's disgusting, and it shouldn't matter who it is.
Are they people that say, we love America, this is the American dream, we've come here and we've made it, we were able to open up our own businesses, and now we've made it, and now we're so appreciative of the economy and the system that America has to allow me to come here and do that?
Nope.
Exactly.
The whole thing is gross. It doesn't matter who's committing fraud, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to protect someone because of their religion or their skin color and say that they should be allowed to steal from you, what are you thinking? Holy crap. Really take a step back and look at yourself. If you think that someone should be allowed to steal from me and you, both of us, and say it's okay because of the color of the skin, the religion that they practice, or the country they came from, they should just get a free pass, you're an idiot.
Yep.
You are dumb. That's it. There's no other way to put it. You're dumb. You're just a dumb human being. That's insane. That's nuts. And this is the thing. This is what's happening all around, that people are so obsessed with this idea of like oppression and social hierarchy that it's gone to a point where you think that they should be exempt from laws and social standards, and to point out that what they're doing is bad makes you the bad guy?
Wasn't that
what
was that conference thing that you showed me where the people had those cards that they got to play their cards of
that was the
levels of oppression
that
cards?
Was the Canadian, I don't know what their acronym is, but it's like the Canadian super progressive democratic leaning party.
I thought that was an SNL skit. Like, I thought that was some kind of skit that was just like that you sent me a video of. I was like, this can't be real.
It's so ridiculous.
They didn't spend any time talking about anything that mattered. All it was who's next up in line and who has the right to be able to talk first over someone else.
To skip the line.
They had more oppression.
Yeah. All they could do, And the funny thing is with that, I mean, that's a whole nother topic. We should honestly talk about it in another episode. But basically, you should go check it out. I don't know what the acronym is, but it was basically the Canadian National Progressive Democratic Party or something. It was their national conference. So the only people that are there are the super progressive, woke, left-leaning Canadians. There's no conservatives for them to get mad at and call bigots. It's all commies, basically. They couldn't exist with themselves. They couldn't. And fun fact, there's a video from, I think it was like 2018 or 2019, happening in America. It was like the National Communist Convention in America. It was the same thing. All they did in their conference was talk about how they would handle their conference to be inclusive. They couldn't even have conversations and progress their own agenda because they were so hyper-fixated on being offended and creating rules for themselves. Now, here's the reason it matters. You want to take those people and put them out into the world where it's not just a little bubble of themselves. You want those people to tell all of us how to live? You want those people to be able to tell us how to live when they can't even navigate their own system when it's just them?
Yeah,
what?
Pretty nuts.
If they can't even communicate amongst themselves, what in the world makes you think we should give those woke progressives power to tell all of us how to live? What? What are we even talking about?
Didn't they spend like 2 whole days that they had for planning just figuring out the rules that they were going to follow by or something?
So it was something like that, where it was basically like they didn't actually do anything productive to their own agenda because they were too hyper-fixated on addressing how things need to be inclusive and safe for everyone's disabilities and all of their oppression.
Not everyone's pronouns needed to not be addressed at all.
Dude, okay. Here's the thing. I have no problem if you're a liberal. I was talking about this with Kirsten. If you're a liberal, I have no problem. I was a liberal most of my life. I have no problem with someone being liberal. The problem goes when it's the next step into woke shit, and you see this, what Kirsten's talking about, where people aren't even capable of having conversations amongst themselves because they're all offended at each other. If they're going to be offended at themselves, what makes you think they'll ever not be offended at you? What makes you think that you should ever surrender power to them and let them dictate and rule things? What makes you think you should ever vote those people into power, into office? What do you think they'll do when they get that power?
And also, it shouldn't have to be so hard to have a conversation with someone that you have to be consciously thinking about how to not offend them. If you're just a good human being and you know how to talk to people, you shouldn't have to consciously think, how can I not offend this person?
Yeah. And on that point, maybe someone gets offended in this exact regard. Because this brings me to my favorite segment of the Flying Otters podcast. Kirsten's Hot Take.
I can't see the buttons today, so I guess I picked a good one.
Yeah, that was great. That worked out way better than it could have otherwise. All right, here we go with Kirsten's Hot Take.
Wait, I need to be able to see it, though. Nope.
I think we should just go with that.
Yeah, that's the Kirsten's Hot Take.
Here we go. Kirsten's Hot Take.
Thong sandals are not it.
Tell them why.
Because if you wear thong sandals, you're a loser. No one wants to see your dogs out like that.
I don't think I've ever seen a multimillionaire in thong sandals.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen an $81,000 a year homeless person in thong sandals either.
Showing up to a business meeting in thong sandals. That'd probably be a good look.
I'm pretty sure that at one vacation I procured them at a dollar store because I lost my sandals and I was like, I just need something to last me a couple days. There's such a weird feeling too, just objectively beyond the way they look. Have you ever had those on your feet?
Yeah.
It's a really weird feeling. It's not a good one.
Who came up with the idea to put a piece of rubber between your big toe and your next toe and string it through to the sides of your feet and then have it rubbing on the side of your feet in very uncomfortable, like, rubber or whatever material you want to put on there, and flopping and clacking the back of your feet as you're walking through the store
and say, I'm ready to go with just this much material separating my foot in the ground. This is good. I'm going to have the sides of my feet wiggle out so they can touch the ground.
And they're always flat with no arch.
Yeah. And also because your foot moves around so much, like the sides of their feet are always hitting the ground, and then that means the bottom of their foot.
Or like they're a little bit too small and your heel touches the ground.
God.
Or your toes are really long and they hang over the top.
Whoever says like, you know what, I could get regular sandals, but I'm just going to choose these instead. This is a better option for me. The only excuse that anyone would ever have to have those, ever, is if you're packing and you need to, I hate this word, consolidate. If you are in an airport and those pieces of shit tell you don't have enough room, you need to fucking tighten.
Fuck that, I'm expanding.
Yeah, I'm going to expand. If you're ever in an airport or something and you're traveling and you don't have a lot of room for like sandals to wear in your hotel room, go for that. That's it. That's the only time.
No, thong sandals at the airport? No.
No. In your travel bag.
If you wear sandals at the airport, you are the most disgusting human being there ever was. If you take off your sandals and you walk barefoot through TSA, that is so not it.
So in general, how do you feel about thong sandals?
They're not it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Kirsten's Hot Take. So with that being said, folks, we want to thank you for tuning in and dealing with all of these rants. Even though most of this falls on dead space because there's very few people listening. But for those of you who do, it truly does mean a lot. We hope that you enjoy it. We hope that it maybe gives you a different perspective. Even if you disagree with us, we hope that you like it. We're going to get out of here because we need to desperately help James McCartney V. He's having a really hard time. So it is that time, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you so much for tuning
Thank you
in.
all.